might want to decide to buy a third BMW this year. That is not what the stimulus
Never said I oppose fracking. Show the tape. Put it on your website. Put it on the website.
Live from Clark Studios in Rochester, New York. Broadcasting around the world. You're listening to You Made It Political, where the voice of the keyboard warrior is finally heard and the arguments presented are put to the political test. And now, here's your host, Matt Clark.
We all know that Joe Biden isn't all cognitively there. I mean, he basically stumbled his way to the presidency, and that was only when he finally decided to come out of his basement. He can barely string a sentence together then, and he most certainly can't even string one together now. He continues to look dazed and confused in every appearance, and we know he can't get through a sentence without using the teleprompter. But 48 days without a single news conference, without a single press briefing, without a single congressional appearance addressing his Congress in person, things are starting to look really weird here. And I'm starting to wonder if it's even Joe Biden out there in front of the American people. I mean, let's be honest. The only time we've really seen him talk to anybody is behind these virtual news things that he's got going in the White House because the media is too scared, or at least the administration is too scared to actually put in front of the media to answer live questions. So things are getting a bit out of control. Today we start our show today over at Fox News, highlighting the fact that it's been 48 days since President Biden has addressed the American people with an actual news conference to answer questions. So President Biden was sworn in to office as the 46th president of the United States 48 days ago. But he's yet to schedule a formal press conference. Yes, we've seen Biden in front of the American people. We've seen him around the boardroom table. We've seen him at these virtual conferences, or whatever you want to call these things, where he's got the big screen there and he's addressing Zoom participants. But we've yet to see him answer the media. We've yet to see him answer any questions. He hasn't even addressed Congress yet. This is the longest time a president has gone without having any sort of these types of meetings. So what's really going on today? Let's break the article down and see what Fox has to say and the alarming statistics that really should have us all quite worried. So Biden has gone 48 days as president without a formal news conference. Past presidents have given press conferences much sooner than Biden has, and we'll discuss that in just a second. So how alarming should this be for the American people? Well, President Biden, as we all know, was sworn in 48 days ago. Since taking office, he's signed dozens of executive orders and actions. I mean, he has no problem using a pen, that's for sure. He smashed records as far as signing executive orders are concerned. Does he really know what he's signing, though? I'm not sure. Some would even argue that there was even words on the paper. I've seen videos, and if you dig through YouTube, you'll find them too, of Biden signing basically blank pages. So he's signing record-breaking numbers of executive orders. He's ramping up to sign the second largest stimulus package in the United States history. But he hasn't addressed the public and answered questions yet. So while he's taking questions from reporters about his administration's early actions, and by questions I mean like a few scripted questions. We all know whatever questions Biden has dealt with to date, they've all been scripted. It's been around a boardroom in a very controlled, closed environment where you hear the reporters ask softball questions. I mean, questions like, hey, Joe, what time do you go to bed? Or, hey, I heard you like playing Mario Kart. What's your favorite character? These are the type of questions that Joe Biden faces behind closed doors in the White House. But we've never seen him appear unscripted to the media in general, where he didn't know what questions were going to be fired at him. He continues to use Jen Psaki as his firewall to dealing with the press. And Psaki has even been called out on it lately. Reporters are thinking, Jen, when is Biden going to actually hold one of these press conferences himself? When are we going to be able to ask the president questions? And she keeps evading that question. We still don't know. Her latest answer is we should see Joe sometime before the end of March. Well, Jen, that's not really a concrete answer, or at least the concrete answer that we're looking for. We want to know, when exactly are we going to see and hear from Biden where he has to answer to unscripted questions? Is he able to handle that? I'm not sure. And the American people are starting to question it too. So during past administrations, what have other presidents done? How quickly have they come on? Because let's compare this to other presidents. Well, during past administrations, it took former President Trump 28 days to hold his first press conference. Only 21 days for former President Obama. So Obama was answering questions, was holding press conferences 3 weeks after becoming president. Trump, 28 days. George Bush, 34 days. So the White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, we see her every single day getting absolutely butchered by the media. I mean, poor girl can't really do her job properly these days because she has to lie for the Biden administration every time she's asked a question, because she doesn't really know what's going on, or maybe she does know what's going on with Joe's health, but she's obviously not giving us a straight answer. So Jen Psaki's constantly being asked, hey, Jen, when's Joe going to answer questions? When are we going to see? And we've seen or heard her last response was, instead of committing to a specific date, she said, she highlighted that roughly 40 times the president has answered and shouted questions from reporters. So this was her answer. Jen, when are we going to hear from President Biden? And she comes out with, well, you've seen and heard from him at least 40 times answer questions. No, Jen, when are we going to actually hear from Biden where the questions aren't scripted? When are we going to see him appear here in the White House press briefing room instead of you? That she cannot answer, and she continues to evade. She answers with, well, the president takes questions several times a week. He took questions actually twice yesterday. What, he answered 2 questions? We look forward to holding a press conference, Psaki says. We're working on setting a final date for that, and as soon as we know, we'll let you know. Again, she's not actually committing to a date. Why aren't they committing to a date? What's really going on here? What's really going on behind closed doors that we can't put the president of the United States in a press briefing room to answer questions from the media? I mean, every other president has come out way sooner than Joe Biden has, and we still don't have an answer as to when he's going to be able to do it. We know he likes to hide in his basement. We know Joe has a hard time dealing with a large group of people. His old age is certainly showing it and wearing on his mental capacity. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. But we're really starting to think that things are getting pretty bad. I mean, let's take a look at this video here of Joe Biden walking into a room in Washington, D.C. He's visited a business. Here's Biden. Meets with small business owners who benefited from the Paycheck Protection Program. Okay, so here's Joe Biden in Washington, D.C., by the way. He hasn't left D.C. to go do this. He's not traveling the country, meeting with small businesses, lighting the country on fire with motivation and passion and the rah-rah attitude that we usually see from a president. So here's Biden now stumbling into a business to hear what they have to say about the PPE that they received from the Biden administration. Let's take a look. So here comes Biden. Again, he's kind of walking around aimlessly like, nope, Biden, over here, buddy. Nope, I don't know where you're going there, but over here. He's totally on his own. And again, it doesn't really look like he knows what's going on. He sees people up at the top. He's waving hi to them. And these two continue to talk for pretty much the whole time. They're talking about how they've received some PPE funds, thank you, and they're letting them know what they've done with it. But Biden just kind of stands there, and this is what we see from Biden all the time. And I've done lives like this before. I did a live a couple weeks ago where Biden was down in Texas. Same thing. He walks into the facility, and he's just kind of like looking around. He doesn't really know what's going on, and we see this from him time and time again. So here he is sitting around. Now, this is what's interesting to notice. At the end of the press briefing, I'm going to kind of forward a few minutes here of Joe just kind of standing there and looking around. Watch how quickly, and I'll turn it up here for you guys to see, watch how quickly the reporters rush Biden out of the room, or rush the media out of the room. And it gets worse and worse every time. So take a look here. Let's listen. So it's over now. And he just starts walking out of the room.
We're gonna move out. Let's go, press. Guys, let's go. Come on, press. Let's go. Come on, let's go. This is the order, sir. Let's go, you guys. Come on. Come on, let's go. Thank you, guys.
Listen to how rude they are kicking the press out. Come on, press, let's go. Get out, time to go. And they do this every single time. And we see this after every single appearance that Joe Biden makes. The press is, or the his assistants, whoever they're setting the whole thing up, they're so quick to push the press out of the room. I mean, they want the media gone the second their big show is over. And that's all we're doing here. We're just putting on a big show. Everywhere that they place Biden, or every event that they script for him, it's just a show to the American people to say, hey, look, we really do have a president here who can walk around and talk and do things that a president's supposed to do. You know, we can assure you that he's still here, but he's not really doing anything. I mean, he does nothing at these events. He just walks around aimlessly. And that's what we saw just now, right now. Another event where he walks around aimlessly. He doesn't really know what's going on. And the second it's over, they want him out of the room. Let's listen.
We're gonna move out. Let's go, press. Guys, let's go. Come on, press. Let's go. Come on, let's go. This is the order, sir. Let's go, you guys. Come on.
And you can tell that the media is growing increasingly frustrated. I mean, they have questions. What's going on at south of the border? What's going on with the stimulus package? What's going on with all these very important situations and crises that America faced today? And he is never allowed to sit there and answer questions. Every single time he appears before anybody as the puppet president that he is, he's just not allowed to ask questions. And it's getting very concerning for a lot of the American people. And it doesn't look good to our international counterparts who see that America doesn't even have a real strong leader right now. We're very vulnerable as a company, or as a country, because we don't have a president who's able to string a sentence together. Things are getting really bad. Let's head over to the keyboard warrior cam and see what the American people have to say about the insanity of Joe Biden not really being able to answer questions, or the fact that 48 days has passed since Joe Biden has become president and he still has not had a single press briefing. But before we do that, what other press briefings or what other types of conferences have former presidents had that Joe Biden still hasn't had? So other appearances, and again, what's also alarming is that CNN's very own Jake Tapper has even said Biden's 15 most recent predecessors have all held a former solo press conference within 33 days of taking office. 15 of Biden's predecessors have all held a formal solo press conference within 33 days of taking office. And this is CNN. When you see CNN calling out Joe Biden, you know we have a real problem here. Because, I mean, left-wing media backs their boy like no other. And they'll do anything to protect him, including throwing them softball questions like, hey, Joe, what time do you usually call tonight? What time do you crash out for bed every night. I mean, these are like the questions that the media tends to throw Joe Biden. So CNN is now highlighting the fact that 15 presidents before Joe Biden have all had some sort of formal solo press conference. Solo. Not without Psaki there for his defense, not without the assistants scripting all the questions beforehand and Joe Biden having very carefully crafted answers, but solo, freelance press conferences where you don't know what they're going to ask. We haven't had Biden hold a single one of these yet. Biden has also not even addressed a joint session of Congress either. Another early term priority in most administrations. Typically, presidents give their first speech before Congress in February. So he's way overdue on even addressing Congress. So we have no solo press conferences, we have no White House press briefings, and we have no joint session of Congress or him addressing the joint session of Congress. This is how ridiculous the situation is getting right now. And all that Psaki has to say for it is that we anticipate Biden's going to hold one by the end of the month, by the end of March. And here's her excuse. I love this. This is how Psaki gets out of it, or tries to at least. We are in the middle of a global pandemic, she said. We intend on the president delivering a joint session, but we don't have a date for that yet. What do you mean we're in the middle of a pandemic, Jen? Like, we've been in the middle of a pandemic since last year, like a year ago. This is not the middle of the pandemic, okay? Cases continue to decline. No one really cares about the pandemic anymore, except for the deep blue states like my very own New York and a handful of liberals who still want a double mask. But other than that, no one cares about the pandemic, okay? The vaccine's out, thanks to President Trump and his warp speed operation. And we're kind of all getting back to business as usual. So nobody really is that concerned about the pandemic or as concerned as Biden, or they claim Biden is. And that's not an excuse to not hold a press briefing, okay? It's not like Biden is on the FedEx airplanes shipping vaccinations around the country himself. It's not like Biden was down in Texas trying to fix the power grid during the Texas cold snap that they experienced a few weeks ago. Okay, Biden's the president of the United States. He has people to do that for him so he can address the American public. That's what the president does. He deals with us, the people, and our questions. And he has everybody else, his 5 million assistants or heads of departments or committee members and leaders, handle the tedious, mundane situations on a daily basis for him. So he can, in fact, address the American people. So Psaki, her big excuse was, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. Jen, the pandemic's been going on for a year right now. Okay, there's nothing Biden has to do anymore. Like, everybody's handling it. The vaccine's out. People have gotten their second doses already. They're masking up. All we hear from Biden, and it seems to be his claim to fame to the presidency, is we're going to curb the pandemic in 100 days. Yeah, Biden, I know. You've told us that like 500 times. We know. You don't have to really do much anymore anyway, because we're already curbing it. It's curbed. You can chill now. You can get on to more pressing matters, like fix the damn crisis at the border. Like, stop 4,000 people per day from coming in seeking asylum. Maybe you can deal with the illegal border crossings that we have, which are 5 times the crisis that Obama went through. So we have some real issues that Biden needs to start tackling, and he's not. All we hear is the pandemic. No one cares about the pandemic anymore. So we really need to see Biden address the American people now. We need to see him in a press conference, and he needs to prove to us that he's mentally sound and cognitively capable of holding office. And if he's not, God forbid, Kamala Harris steps in, they need to start addressing that right now. Because it's not acceptable that he's gone 48 days without addressing the American people. So he's either mentally rapidly declining, and the Democrats are lying to us about it, or him and his administration have completely lost control of America and they have no clue what they're doing in the first place. I'd like to think it was because of his mental health, but I wouldn't doubt for 2 seconds that the Democrats and the Biden administration have no clue how to handle what's going on in America right now. I don't think they're qualified. I don't think they're capable. I think it's an absolute shit show in Washington right now. I think it's a circus act, and they're all fumbling and tripping over each other. I mean, look what's going on around the country as far as the teachers' unions are concerned. They're now throwing the districts under the bus. The state continues to blame the unions continue to blame the teachers are blaming the Board of Education. I mean, it's a complete circus act, and this is what we're seeing in Democratic run states. Look at Cuomo. Now he's being tossed to the curb, thrown to the wolves, because the Democrats have royally screwed up the whole nursing home scandal. So the Democrats are tripping up not only at a federal level, but they're tripping up in New York State, California, and it's an absolute circus act across deep blue states. And we're all now starting to see the real deal. Things were a lot better with Trump. You better believe that. And I think a lot of people are starting to see that they made a horrible mistake at the voting booth, and that as America continues to decline and illegal border crossings continue to flood America, they're probably wishing that they kept the big orange man in charge. The guy who maybe wasn't the most sincere off the cusp, but he knew how to get business done, and he knew how to keep America safe, and he knew how to keep our economy going. Things that are all being destroyed right now under the Biden administration. Let's head over to the keyboard warrior cam and see what the American people have to say about the fact that it's been 48 days, and Biden has yet to schedule a formal press conference. Matt says it's no surprise. Why talk corruption to all of us American law-abiding citizens? Because that's pretty much the only topic at hand right now. Shirley says it's just as well he doesn't have one. We all know he is not controlling things, and it's painful to watch him struggle to be coherent. It also lets our enemies know how weak and vulnerable America is right now. And I just said that. We are certainly showing our true colors to countries around the world. We're showing them how weak and vulnerable we are right now. We have a president who can't even answer questions. That's not going to really make countries scared of America right now. They're going to start walking all over us. We have no power negotiator. And you better believe Chuck and Nancy aren't doing it. I mean, if it's not Joe Biden, who is it? Who's calling the shots? If it was at least somebody I could feel confident in, okay, fine. I'd accept it. But I don't know any Democrat right now that's calling the shots that I would feel confident in as far as driving America forward in the direction that we feel it needs to go. Charlotte says, poor man, he can't. Why did people elect a man that can't carry out the duties that are expected of the president? So sad. Kim says, I can't believe the number of Americans who were duped into this faux presidency. It's hard to watch. Not being able to remember the defense secretary's name yesterday. For those of you who haven't seen that, go back and look it up. He couldn't remember the defense secretary's name, and he never remembered it. He referred to him as that guy. He couldn't even remember the name. It's no wonder his handlers won't allow a real press conference. They won't. He can't remember people's names. He doesn't remember where he is half the time. I don't think he really knew he was in Texas. I just showed you a video of him walking into a business in Washington, D.C. and aimlessly looking around again, not really knowing what was going on. As soon as that press, or that whatever you want to call it, that show that they put on was over, reporters scrambled to ask questions, begged to ask questions, and you heard his rude assistant once again get out, screaming, let's go, we're done, we're done, we're done. What's the point in even letting the press know where Joe Biden's going to be if you're not going to let them ask questions? Serious questions that we need answering. There's no point. You might as well not even tell the press that Joe Biden's, or even give them their schedule. But they need to, because they got to keep putting on that show. Wanda says there is no possible way they would let him have a news conference. He would make such a fool of himself and prove he is not fit to be the president of the United States of America. They must keep him and his failing mental health hidden. But what they apparently don't understand is that we all know already. It's just that some of us are smart enough and care enough about our country to speak to it. Others put their heads in the sand and hide from the fact that they voted for this incompetent guy. Listen, if you voted for Biden, it's okay. We forgive you. No one's going to shame you. Just admit it. We've got somebody with a very, very mentally health condition, rapidly declining condition, running the country right now. If you guys can all just step up with us and admit that things are bad, maybe we can all convince the Biden administration or our congressmen and women or our senators to start the impeachment process now. Let's just get the 25th going and get this whole thing done with, because it's very clear he should not be running the show. It's leaving America open and vulnerable to attacks, and that is not something any of us want to put this country through right now. Natalie says he ran his election campaign from his basement. Absolutely. He avoided speaking. Did anyone really think that we would see much of this president? People got what they voted for. An inaccessible, fumbling liberal puppet. Great comment, Natalie. That's exactly what's happened. He is a puppet. He's definitely fumbling. He's absolutely inaccessible. He keeps holding his meetings, not even in the White House. Not even in the White House. And these people, these committee members, these committee leaders, his cabinet, they can get to the White House. They can sit around a boardroom table masked up. My friends are all flying around the country again who work for corporations. They're having boardroom meetings. The airlines are open. Why aren't we seeing these meetings around a boardroom? So it leads me to believe the situation is so bad that they don't even want his own cabinet showing up to a boardroom meeting right now. Because, of course, the cabinet's going to want to say hi. They're going to want to ask questions. They're going to want to shake the guy's hand. They want to have a 2-minute conversation, understandably. And they're not going to let him, though, for obvious reasons. So it's very apparent. No cabinet meetings, no in White House boardroom meetings. The only time we ever see him in the Oval Office is when he's with Kamala Harris. We don't see any of these freelance ad hoc type meetings, unscripted appearances from Joe. We only see everything being very carefully controlled. Dennis says, we went from a strong leader that pissed people off and made them feel uncomfortable, but got a lot done to better this country, to a weak and feeble leader who is turning this country upside down and getting nothing good done. Let the border open. They can all come over and we will go there and make their country great again. They are ruining our country and putting us all in danger in the meantime, referring to the southern border crisis that we have right now. And this is what I just said. We went from a strong leader that pissed people off. I'd rather have a strong leader that upset people because he wasn't the most sincere and genuine person in front of the camera. He was real. Trump was real. He got deals done. And I still haven't heard a valid answer from any of my liberal friends as to why they honestly thought Biden would be a better leader than Trump. They can't answer it. They just wanted Biden gone. And that's why I continue to say nobody actually voted for Biden. Okay, they may have gone to the voting booth, ticked the box that said Biden, but they really didn't want Biden in charge. They just wanted Trump out. Well, guys, look what you got now. We have a raging border crisis that Biden himself admits to. He refuses to admit to it, The administration refuses to admit to it. Jen Psaki's only answer is, I'm going to circle back to you. She can't answer a question to save her life. And they're weak. They're weak, and America's vulnerable. And I would have taken a mean president with real leadership any day over this circus show that we now have. America is crumbling before our eyes. New York, California have been destroyed by draconian and Democratic governors who don't care about the American people. The Biden administration and the Democrats in general leading this charge don't care about the American people. They've made that very apparent even after cities that have been devastated all summer long. They want their money now. They want to be fixed up. And none of the Black Lives Matter money is going to those cities. Not a single penny. They're not in there rolling up their sleeves, fixing up those communities like they promised. They use Americans for their votes, and then they kick them to the curb once they get power. And that's exactly what we've seen here. At least Trump was honest and real, no matter how harsh he was. He was transparent. Michael says he cannot speak on his own. He needs a teleprompter or a piece of a written script. Without any of them, the American people would actually see what kind of old, frail man was voted into office, as well as all our enemies, foreign and domestic. Bunker Joe is going to be exposed. He's going to be exposed. It's just a matter of time. I know it's coming. At first, I said I'd give him a year. Then I said I'd give him 6 months. I don't think I'd bet on 3 months, but things certainly are moving in that direction. Chris says, because he can't talk and has dementia. This was the plan all along. Kami and Nancy will take over. Happy voters. Shame on you all. We are in so much trouble. When you all voted for Joe Biden, okay, let me ask you this. When you voted for Joe Biden, did you ever stop to think for 2 seconds that Kamala might be taking control within the next year? Like, when you voted for Biden, did you consider the fact that you are really voting for Kamala Harris? If you knew Kamala Harris would have been president within a year of Joe Biden taking office, would you have still voted for Joe Biden, or would have you voted for Trump? All you rhino Republicans who turned on your party and voted for Biden, if you knew this is where we'd be at only 48 days later, border crisis, COVID crisis, Democratic states continue to go bankrupt, states locking us down, would you have still voted for Biden? Because the situation continues to get worse. And I hope all of you Republicans out there who voted for Biden, I hope you're feeling guilt and shame like you've never felt before, because you absolutely deserve it. 100%. Maybe this will be the last time you ever vote against the party, because we all know the Democrats can't be trusted. Darren says the biggest fraud and coup since Kennedy was murdered. They hid him in basement for a year. He signs blank paper. We just tackled that. I told you, I'm not convinced there are actually words on the executive orders. They were blank pieces of paper. So I don't think Joe even knows what he signed. He was just told to sign it. He signs blank paper. He has executive orders that seem orchestrated by a far left radical agenda. It's not a joking matter anymore. His mental health is not good. Everyone knew this and the media covered it up. Kamala Harris is in charge. There is a reason they have a fence and troops around the Capitol and White House. It's not because of January 6th. It's because of what they are doing to overthrow the country as we know it. That's a great point. Listen, I don't care what anybody says. I was there. I was there at January 6th. It sucks that a few extremists stormed the Capitol building and a few people died. I'm not going to undermine that or take away from that seriousness. But it was no coup, okay? If 1 million people wanted to bring down the Capitol, they would have done it in 5 seconds. No amount of police force would have been able to stop the amount of people that were there at the Capitol that day. It was actually a very peaceful, lovely day, bar a few minutes of total chaos. But that fence is not up because of January 6th. And it's not up because of the March 4th QAnon reports of the coup or the president taking back the White House on March 4th. That's not why any of that's up. The fence is up because America is pissed, and the Biden administration knows it. They're furious right now. They feel like they've been lied to. They're scared. They are very scared, whether it's for their lives, whether it's for an attack, whether it's for a militia type coup. I don't know what they're scared about. But the point is, they have a reason to be scared because America's not happy with what's going on. And as they continue to sign executive orders and destroy people's jobs and run with their very far radical left agenda that's infuriating so many Americans throughout this country, more so than none. And they need to be very careful with the decisions that they make moving forward. Because if you need a fence around the Capitol building, clearly the American people do not want you in charge. And it needs to make you think very seriously about all the decisions that you make moving forward. They're not working with Republicans. There are no checks and balances right now. Every time Biden doesn't get his way, he signs an executive order. H.R. 1 is going to change the way elections are ran moving forward. It's going to legalize voter fraud. Now we have H.R. 127, a bill that's about to change and destroy the Second Amendment as we know it. So yeah, they should have a fence up around the Capitol building because they are pissing off Americans more and more each day, that the growing number of people who are becoming frustrated is at all-time highs. His approval ratings continue to plummet for a very good reason. But that fence is not up there because of January 6th. It's up there because they're scared by the fact that America is not happy with who's in charge. Kyle says all major liberal news media be like Biden busy working so hard for the country, tirelessly, selflessly, so brave and so woke, fixing, uniting, and healing the country. He hasn't had time for oppressor. And I just said that. That's what Psaki said. So all the news, basically what Kyle's saying here is, listen, who the hell are you kidding? We know Biden isn't out there working tirelessly to fix this country. That's not why he hasn't had time for oppressor. The rest of the country's like, Biden is so far wasted and gone that we all know he can't string two coherent words together. That's the real deal. How stupid does the liberal media think we are right now? We know what's going on. And if you're one of those people who actually think that Biden's out there working his ass off to save America, then I really have no words for how uninformed and uneducated you are on this topic right now. Because all you got to do is read through a handful of Fox and CNN articles to piece it all together, and you'll know 2 seconds that what's going on here is way more dire than the pandemic. That the pandemic is not the reason that Biden's not holding press conferences. Marilyn says he has been very busy. No golf, no hateful rallies, no tweeting. He may not have given formal news conference, but he has spoken to the American people many times. Listen up and appreciate the fact that he does work. I'm going to throw that a big old LOL because Marilyn seems to be one of the deranged that actually thinks Biden's calling the shots. She actually seems to think that he's running the show here, and he is not. We all see it. The liberal media knows it. I don't know how they sleep at night knowing that they have to continue to lie or for how long they have to continue to lie, but it must be very exhausting. He says, go ahead and invoke the 25th, remove him from office. Kamala takes over and Pelosi becomes VP. That's been the plan for this numb-nutted Democratic Party the whole time. Ray Charles could have seen this coming. I don't think Pelosi actually becomes the VP. I've read up on that, and I think they still need to pick a new VP. I don't think Pelosi automatically gets it. I'll have to dig further into that. But I know there's a lot of talk about the fact that Pelosi automatically becomes the VP. I don't think that's the case. I'm not sure what committee or if it's Kamala Harris herself, but I do think the VP is selected. I don't think Pelosi automatically gets it. Clifton says he owes us answers to his and his administration's stupidity. They cheated their way to that position and now do not have the brains to handle it. And we are the ones suffering for their ignorance. If they just admitted that they really need help from the Republicans, I'd have a lot more respect for them. But they sent Congress home in his first week in office. If you remember, Biden dismissed Congress. He said, we're not even going to pretend to sit around the table and have an open discussion. Go home. We'll take it from here. And off he went, signing his 45 executive orders within the first 2 weeks. He had no need for Congress. Republicans are sitting around thinking, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do for the next 2 years. I'll continue to collect my $175,000 paycheck a year, I guess, but I don't know what I'm earning this money for because Biden doesn't want to include them in any of the discussion. And again, it's not Biden. Whether it's Kamala Harris, whether it's Chuck and Nancy, whoever's pulling the strings up there, they have very clearly sent a message to the American people that they are not interested in what the Republicans think. They're not interested in what Kevin McCarthy or Senator Mitch McConnell have to say about anything. They're just going to continue to make every decision. And now they want to eliminate the filibuster, which would completely derail America and throw it off course. And we'd all be very, very sorry if we do, in fact, eliminate the filibuster. It's the only thing that we have going for this country right now. We eliminate the filibuster and we are dead in the water. We will never have a say again. H.R. 1's already going to destroy the election process and basically guarantee that the Democrats win forever, get rid of the filibuster, and we'll never have a say in any matter ever again. America is on track of becoming a one-party system. We are on track to becoming a communist country. Because once the Republicans lose their voice, we may as well be communist. Nelly says, how long before other countries start bombing here and taking over? He does not care. I think that's what the Dems want to happen. I don't know if I take it that far. I don't think they want any American or a country to be bombed. But let's be honest. They're not even pretending about the fact that they don't care what half the country thinks right now. Patrick says, we used to have a great president, Donald Trump, who was very transparent. Sometimes he went overboard, but it was because Americans came first. Beady-eyed, corrupt Joe Biden, the clown, is not my president. Trump was transparent. At least we didn't feel like we were being lied to. At least we felt like we were being told the truth. It was a nice thing for America to be put first. And what was also really nice was listening to CPAC. I don't know if any of you tuned into CPAC Live down in Orlando, Florida a couple weeks ago. We were watching every speaker, scrutinizing every word that came out of their mouth. It was great to hear all of them put America first. And that's exactly what they did. It was an America First rally. You had Governor DeSantis, Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, and a lot of the other diehard America First conservatives down there railing the troops, reminding America that they will be back. And it was nice to hear them talk about how they move America and the American people forward together. Right now, all I hear is radical left agenda after radical left agenda. I got Rachel Levine now, the transgender, now days away. I don't think she's been put on the assignment yet, but she's 2 seconds from leading the charge in Washington. And she promotes minors being able to make sex change decisions without the consent of their parents. This is the direction that we're headed. The liberal indoctrination in schools, children being able to make very drastic changes to their bodies without their parents' consent. If you haven't yet seen the interrogation between Rachel Levine by Rand Paul. It's disturbing. You guys should go back and take a look at that. It's disgusting. And Rachel Levine evaded every question about or from Rand Paul that had to do with, do you consent to or are you promoting minors being able to take puberty blockers or have sex changes without the consent of the parents? And Rachel Levine evaded the question several times. This is the kind of administration that we're dealing with, that put illegal immigrants ahead of starving Americans, that would rather discuss sex changes in kindergarten than basic arithmetic, reading and writing. It's very, very scary, and it's very disgusting, the direction that this country is now headed. Stephen says because he has dementia and doesn't know where he is half the time. And his handlers are afraid of what will come out of his mouth. Job well done, liberals. So sorry President Trump hurt your feelings, but the country ran better, and we had a man in charge instead of a driveling fool. Fonda says it's really sad that our government knowingly let someone in his condition run for president. Even his wife should be ashamed. And she's a doctor. I mean, Jill, what are you doing? Like, let's put the guy out of his misery. It's time to call it quits. You must cry yourself to sleep every night knowing that your husband is rapidly declining cognitively and the entire country is busting on him for it. It can't really make you feel too good as his wife. Fonda says even his wife should be ashamed. I really believe in my heart they cheated in the election so Harris, Pelosi, and Obama could be in charge. We are in a mess. We need Trump back. Our country has gone to hell. It absolutely has. And every day it gets worse. The kids still aren't back in school. But we'd rather discuss sex ed in kindergarten. We'd rather let in illegal aliens into the country than get these kids back to school 5 days per week, all grades in Democratic states. Their priorities are all backwards. This is an America last agenda. And if someone doesn't do something, it's going to continue that way. And we aren't going to be able to change course once it gets to the point where it's too late to do so. Kimberly says he lied his way through college, lied the entire 40 years in politics, and has been bought and paid for through countless corrupt deals. And yet people still blindly follow because he wears a blue tie instead of red. People are blindly following Biden as he derails America, throws it over a cliff, and we're all just supposed to sit here and watch it go down because not a single Republican is able to do anything about it. Angela says the fact that we even have a man in office who is this mentally impaired is insane. You will never convince me he got more votes than Obama, who was extremely popular with the Dems. I will never be convinced of that either. I don't care what you say. There's no way this man got more votes than Obama. This election was stolen, and unfortunately, the courts will not hear the case. The last and final chance they had just got thrown out yesterday. It wasn't heard, it was rejected, and it's officially game over for the administration. So it's all very, very mysterious as to why we haven't been able to hear of Joe Biden in 48 days of him becoming president of the United States. He's gone on camera. He's answered softball questions, very scripted. He's never actually had to think for himself since he's taken control of the White House. He hasn't had a single press briefing. He hasn't addressed Congress in a joint session yet. It's all been closed-door meetings, virtual meetings to his cabinet. No one's really had a chance to actually talk and have a real conversation with Joe Biden. So it's very mysterious, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see over the next few weeks some very serious decisions being made out of Washington. Who knows? Only time will tell. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today at You Made It Political. We stream live every day to Facebook and YouTube at 3 p.m. You can also find us on Amazon Tunes or Amazon Music, YouTube, or iTunes, Spotify, and TuneIn. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to You Made It Political with Matt Clark. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show, or leave us a review on iTunes. And if you like our show or want to know more, check out YouMadeItPolitical.com.